ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरतुसे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we are discussing from Bhagavad Gita and chapter 2 and verse number 19, 20 we discussed. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भवितव्यो भूया अजो नित्या शाश्वतो अयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. So I think we completed this verse last time. We also read the purport. Yes. So our next verse is verse number 21. In the previous verse, Najayate Mrite Va Kadachin, the Lord Krishna explained some of the characteristics of the individual spirit soul. That the soul is Aja, it's unborn, Nitya, Sashvata, permanently, it is eternal and the oldest, and the soul is not destroyed. That means we don't get destroyed when the body is destroyed. It means we are completely aloof from all kinds of material bodily changes. So now, Krishna is telling in the next verse, Veda vinasinam nityam jayenam ajamavyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. So now Krishna is explaining, one who knows all these things, all these characteristics of the soul and body. So what is his consciousness? How does he act? Kam ghatayati hantikam. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So, Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible? So, whatever the characteristics of the soul has been explained in the previous verses, Krishna is telling, if you can know these characteristics, and if you know, actually, if you know, so how can you be so anxious uh, about the bodily changes, about the bodily relationships, bodily designations? Because you are actually not going to kill anyone, and neither anyone kill you. You cannot kill anyone or cause anyone to kill. That means other person can also not kill anybody else. This is what Krishna is telling. So Veda avinasinam nityam. One Veda means one who knows. Veda means knowledge. That's why one who wants to know something, one who wants to get some knowledge, he must refer to Vedas. Vedic literatures are the only source of complete and perfect knowledge. Veda. One who knows avinasinam nityam. Ya enam. Enam is this soul. One who knows that this soul is a nityam, always existing, avinasinam, indestructible. The one who knows this, ajam, and also knows ajam, anvan, abhyam, immutable. Abhyam means it is inexhaustible or immutable. Abhyam. Vaya means Suppose you have 100 rupees, and if you spend 50 rupees, that means 50 rupees are where? 50 rupees are exhausted. But soul is not exhausted. Soul never gets exhausted. That's why abhyam. Even though the soul may uh, live in this material world for many millions and millions of years, and the soul may accept so many different kinds of bodies, and soul may undergo so many changes, but still it is not exhausted. Everything material in this world has this natural characteristic that it gets exhausted. Whether it is used or not used, over the period of time, everything gets exhausted. Exhausted means it deteriorates, it decays, decay. That's why in chemistry, we read decay value. Uh, Everything decays in this material, including this intelligence, brain and mind, mentality, health, energy, money, and all kinds of fame, resources, everything decays in this material world, and finally everything is destroyed. But the soul, on one hand, Krishna is explaining avinasina, it is indestructible, it is not destroyed, and also it is immutable or abhyam. That means it does not undergo any kind of change. In the previous verse, also the similar quality has been mentioned. Kutistha. Kutistha means it is completely unchangeable. Kutistha or Achalovayam Sanatana. Achala. Achala means it does not move, or it is not affected by the movement of time. That is the meaning of Achalovayam Sanat. That will come in the upcoming verses. Lord Krishna is again and again telling some of the characteristics he explains again and again, so that just to emphasize over those qualities, because these are the things which disturbs a person. If something happens in our life, if some changes are happening, if we are losing something, something are getting exhausted, uh, something is deteriorating, and finally if something is getting destroyed, then because of this misidentification that with the change of these things, I am getting changed, I am losing something. This sense of losing something creates a lot of disturbances, or uh, this distress within the mind. So, but one who is situated in complete transcendental knowledge, he knows whatever may happen in this material world, with anything, with this material body or with anything, my relationships, material body or whatever I have. So nothing is going to make me lose anything, because I have nothing to do with anything of this material, whether with this material body, intelligence, mind, or resources, relationships, property, wealth, whatever it is. So that's why Krishna is saying Veda Avinasinam. One who knows this, that that I am indestructible, and whatever I have actually. So along with the soul, Enam refers to the soul, but Enam also includes all those things which are actually the assets of the soul. All those things which are actually assets of the soul. So which are actually assets of the soul. Just like whatever this devotional service one performs. So that is also avinasinam. That also remains as it is, intact. No changes. Nothing is destroyed. And also immutable, inexhaustible. So that should give us complete peace of mind, that if in this period of life, if I am able to do something or whatever I am able to do on a spiritual platform, and if I'm getting any wealth in spiritual terms, so that is permanent asset for me. And whatever I may do at material level, however good, better, best I may be able, I may be able to do, nothing is going to remain permanently. Everything is going to get destroyed eventually, and everything is going to deteriorates, decays, finishes over the period of time. but the soul and the property of the soul, or the assets of the soul, or in simple words, the earnings of the soul, uh, spiritual earnings, that remains as it is. Katham Sapursa Partha, how can such a person um, cause anyone to kill, and or he can become the cause of anyone's destruction? So this Krishna is explaining in this verse. So that's why one should not lament this world. While living in this world, one should not lament. Rather, one should be intelligent enough to give his best in order to acquire more and more spiritual assets or spiritual wealth. So everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. So everything has its proper utility. Um, everything means that means violence also has its proper utility. But a person who knows the value, or who knows how to utilize, he can utilize it properly. So although the justice of the peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of the peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the courts of justice. Similarly, that's why violence is also necessary. That's why using Bhagavad Gita, one cannot prove that non-violence. Although in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the aspect of knowledge has been explained as non-violence or ahimsa. Lord Krishna explains this. But what does this ahimsa or non-violence means? The case of Arjuna, if Arjuna is declining to fight, that means he is going to perform violence. When Arjuna decides that I will fight and kill all the irreligious element, and then that is actually ahimsa, non-violence. It may be strange to hear, but this is a fact. So Srila Prabhupada, once he was invited in Jhansi. He was in Jhansi, 1957. And during those years, so he was in Jhansi. So on 2nd October, he was invited to give a talk on 2nd October on the birthday of Gandhi. So Srila Prabhupada explained very beautifully that Lord Krishna explains non-violence in Bhagavad Gita, ahimsa. Then Prabhupada explains what is the meaning of ahimsa and non-violence. So he explained what is the meaning of violence or hinsa. So Srila Prabhupada explained that everyone has got certain kind of rights, adhikar, rights to live, rights to eat, right to perform certain kind of activity. So if somebody uh, is harassing him by taking away his rights, then actually that is violence. Just like um, uh, we say, every child has the right to study in schools and colleges. Every child has this right. So if a child is abandoned from going to school and colleges, if child is declined from studying, that means we are performing violence upon that child. That is the meaning of violence. So similarly, then Srila Prabhupada added and he said, uh, every living entity has the right to become devotee of the Supreme Lord, has the right to get spiritual knowledge, has the right to perform devotional service, and has every living entity, especially human being, every human being has the right to act on the platform of spiritual consciousness in order to free himself from the cycle of birth and death. This every human being has this right. So if somebody or if some system, if they try to decline this, they do not allow, they prohibit this performance of devotional service, then that is actually violence. Non-violence means to allow everyone, to give everyone the opportunity to become to develop spiritual consciousness by becoming devotees of the Supreme Lord. So that is actually non-violence. That is real non-violence. Similarly, Meaning of violence means to not allow somebody perform devotional service. So in Manu Samhita, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in the next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. So another example Srila Prabhupada is giving in this purport, just like in government law codes of conduct, it is enjoined that if somebody has done this criminal activity, murder, then the court may also similarly give him punishment to be hanged. So apparently, it appears that the government is performing violence upon that particular citizen. But actually, this is not violence. This is for his good, and this is actually non-violence because the person who has done criminal activity, he has performed violence. Or so, if against that person this punishment system has not been applied, then that means the government is doing violence upon the person who is affected with the criminal activity. So in that way, we have to understand. Similarly, here Arjuna, he is thinking that if I uh, fight in this battlefield, this will be a violence from me. But Krishna says, no, this is required for the protection of religious principles. So if you don't perform this fight, this if you don't perform this duty of fighting in this battlefield and killing all those irreligious people, then you are performing violence against religious principles, against these moral principles, religious principles, and against your prescribed duties. That is violence, and for that you will get the sin, and you will have to go to hell. This is very clear. So Arjuna was thinking, Papam eva tasman. If I fight this battlefield and if I kill somebody, then I will incur sin and I will have to go to hell. But Krishna is saying, no, it's the other way around. You will get sin when if you don't perform, if you hesitate to perform this fight, then you will incur the sin and then you will have to go to hell. Rather, on the other hand, if you do your duty and if you perform this fight and if you kill all those irreligious people, then you will get punya, piety, and you will go to swarga on material level. And if you do it, this fighting in Krishna consciousness, thinking that the Supreme Lord desires this, the Supreme Lord has ordered me to act in such a way, so then you will not only get material piety, but you will actually get a spiritual piety and you will get liberated altogether from this material existence. That will be the end of your this material existence, cycle of birth and death. So it is mentioned in Manu Samhita also, the law book for mankind, that if a murderer is not condemned to death, so in his next life he will have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Rather, he will be suffering in multiple times, thousands of times more than the simply death. That's why this is the duty of the government or the king to give punishment, right kind of punishment to those who have performed some kind of criminal activity. If they are not punished, then uh, according to the law of government, according to the law of universal government, God's government, that person will have to suffer more in his next life. That is the law. That's why this punishment system has been introduced. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for supreme justice. Similarly, there are many people, sometimes they say, Arjuna was such a nice gentleman. He was such a moral person. But just see, Krishna, he induced him to fight. So Krishna did this mistake. Krishna induced him to fight. So many millions of people were killed. But but they don't know that Krishna cannot order anything which is not justice. Krishna cannot order anything which is not beneficial for the society. That cannot happen because Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He is God. He is, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. I am Supreme Well Wishing Friend of each and every living entity. So, being a supreme well wishing friend of each and every living entity, how can he give any decision which will be not beneficial for the society? This cannot happen. Uh, so, neither Krishna is not well wisher, he is well wisher, immoral, neither Krishna is immoral, nor he is in ignorance. Krishna is in complete knowledge. He knows exactly what is right, what is wrong. And on the other hand, he is also the supremely well-wishing friend of each and every living entity, all the mankind. So whatever order he gave, that was completely for the benefit of each and every person, for the society, and for all those persons who were killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. For their benefit also, Krishna gave the right kind of decision, because if they were not killed and on that battlefield, they were destined to get a heavy punishment after they leave this material body, the hellish condition of life. That's why in order to save them, Krishna told that all these irreligious people, you must kill them and finish off. And when all those millions of people who were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in front of the Supreme Lord, seeing him, they all got delivered from the cycle of birth and death. That is also a special advantage of getting killed in front of the Supreme Lord. That's why Marich, he was intelligent enough. He knew the Sastric principles. So when this Ravana, he threatened him that either you go and cheat Lord Ramchandra or I will kill you. So Marichan could understand that on both the sides, I'm going to kill. I'm going to get killed. So better to get killed by the Supreme Lord so that I will get liberation from this material existence, rather than get killed by this Rakshasa, Ravanasura. So although on a spiritual platform, this kind of attitude is not it cannot be appreciated. But of course, on the other side, we can say this is all pastimes arranged by Lord Ramchandra. So whatever decision Marish took, that was actually desire of Lord Ramchandra. But for the sake of lesson, we are just discussing that Marish, in order to get liberation for himself, she agreed to cheat Lord Ramchandra. That is not good. A devotee means even if he has to go to hell, he will never cheat the Supreme Lord. He will always act in such a manner so that the Lord will be pleased and Lord will be able to perform his pastimes very nicely. That is the mood of a devotee. But of course, in the case of Lord Ramchandra and Marish, that was actually already destined, pre-planned. Lord Ramchandra already made all this arrangement. So, so for supreme justice, violence can be applied. And thus, Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate, the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. So, for the administration of justice, so called violence is permitted. For the administration of justice, nobody can misuse this knowledge that we are not this body, we are soul, and everyone is soul. So, what is the harm in killing the body? Body is already dead. There are some people like this who misuse this knowledge that the living entity is actually soul, not the body. So we can kill the animal and eat, because we are not killing the animal. We are killing the body of the animal in order to satisfy our tongue. Uh, so what is the harm? Gita says this, that when you are killing, actually you are not killing. You are only killing the body. It's just like changing the dress. So this cannot be accepted, because there must be reason behind, perfect, proper reason, and there must be sanction of the superior authority. It's just like, suppose if somebody is living in the house, and if you go and drag that person uh, out of the house and take his house, so is that good? You cannot say, I have only taken his house. I have not killed him. I have relieved him. I have not given any harm to that person. I have only dragged him out of the house. So will it be acceptable? No, because you don't have any right to uh, take away somebody's house forcefully. Similarly, this body is a house given by the Supreme Lord. a vehicle or house or machine. So, according to the previous karma, the Lord and material nature has already destined somebody that okay, you use this body for certain period of time. So if I go and kill that person and snatch him away from the body, drag him away from the body, so that is unacceptable. Although the living entity is not getting killed, but it's still that action is actually violence, and that action is actually sinful, and one has to get the punishment. That's why, for the purpose of administration of justice, this so-called violence is permitted. The surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction. Another example is surgical operation. In surgical operation also, the doctor or surgeon, he cuts the skin. uh, So, but that cannot be considered as violence, or that cannot be considered as this criminal activity, because that is done for the purpose of doing good to the patient. Similarly, for the purpose of doing good to the society, Arjuna is being instructed by the Supreme Lord to fight in this battlefield and kill all those this irreligious element, so that proper dharma can be established. So there is nothing wrong, or it's not sinful. That's why Krishna in this verse is telling, Veda vinasinam nityam. One who knows, one who has this knowledge, Veda vinasinam nityam. How can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible and eternal, unborn, immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Thank you very much. With this, we'll stop. If you have any question, you can ask. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram.
Hare Krishna Prabhu,
Hare.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. As you told that there is a free will, and somehow you have explained that there is a free will behind, and there is a thing ki what to do or what not to do. Somehow Krishna also guide us. So how do we understand that what should I means we are doing is right? Is Krishna will, as Marichi was doing the same. Hare Krishna.
So Arjuna was fortunate enough to get the Supreme Lord himself as his spiritual master, direct spiritual master, Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru. Both the gurus, Krishna he himself became, and he guided him very nicely. So, but for us, because we are not so qualified at present, maybe in the future, some of you may become completely qualified. You may also get direct audience of the Supreme Lord, and he can come and instruct you. But at present, because we are not fully qualified, so we have Krishna's pure devotee representative, who become our spiritual master guru and guide us. So we should follow the instructions of the authorities, one of our spiritual master, and execute what should be done. And from in day to day life also, we can take help from those senior devotees who are mature enough and who are able to follow the instructions and teachings of Srila Prabhupada. So they can guide us what exactly we should do or we should not do. And as we follow sincerely the instructions of superior authorities, senior devotees, and then we become more sincere and we become more purified. And gradually, the Supreme Lord Himself, in the form of Paramatma, He speaks to us and He can guide us. And we can get guidance from the scriptures, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So that is quite possible. But uh, we should always, these three checkpoints must always be there: Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Even if we get some instructions from within, from Paramatma, but still we should confirm it with some senior devotee, because at uh, our level, it may also happen that Maya is also sitting side by side. So Maya may also give some kind of instruction. And because we are not pure, so we may accept Maya's instructions as Krishna's instructions and ruin our spiritual career. It's better in both the cases, whether we are getting some inspiration from Paramatma inside or not. In both the cases, we should consult with senior devotees, confirm with them, and then we should execute our duty. Is it clear?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat.